Russia and Ukraine have traded airstrikes on cities near the border. Authorities in the Russian city of Belgorod say 5 people died in a Ukrainian bombing. Meanwhile, President Volodomyr Zelenskyy is pleading with Western allies to allow his forces to fire missiles deeper into Russia. He says this would prevent attacks such as one on Kharkiv, which killed at least 6 people on Friday.
In Kharkiv, just 30 kilometers from the Russian border, the war is never far away. This time it was an apartment block and children's playground that was struck in Ukraine's second largest city. Firefighters scaled the 12-story building to rescue those trapped within, as residents looked on in desperation. This young girl was one of the fortunate ones saved from the flames to be reunited with her father on the ground.
I don't understand what kind of people can attack a playground when children are playing in the middle of the day. I just don't know.
With a 14-year-old girl among the dead and several other children injured, residents were left reeling.
I'm in shock. I have goosebumps all over my body. We go for a walk here every other day. I'm just filled with hatred and anger for those who did it. It used to be quiet and peaceful here, and now it's not.
Ukrainian officials accused Russia of once more targeting civilians.
These are exclusively streets, exclusively parks, a large crowd of civilians and a residential building. Again, this is mass terror, in fact, the murder of our civilians.
To protect those civilians in Kharkiv and throughout Ukraine, President Volodomyr Zelenskyy argued again that Kyiv's allies needed to let it stop Moscow's attacks at the source on Russian soil.
We need decisions that can be made by our partners, by those countries on whom it depends, whether we have the ability to destroy Russian military aircraft, exactly where they are based, exactly where the elimination of those terrorists and their aircraft can be the most effective.
While Ukraine may not have the ability to strike deep within Russia, its reach does extend to Kharkiv's former sister city, Belgorod. Russian authorities accused Kyiv of shelling the border city on Friday night with cluster munitions. Local officials said 5 people were killed, with dozens more injured.
For more on this topic, let's bring in Marina Miron, the military analyst from King's College London, joining us from Munich today. Marina, Ukraine has been campaigning for so long to use Western weapons for attacks in Russia. If they finally get the green light, how will it change the war?
Good morning, Gerhard. Of course, from the Ukrainian perspective, any sorts of restrictions, especially in the situation that Ukraine is in, are unfair. And the problem here is that the Western powers are looking at more of the political fallout that could result from this. Now, militarily, Ukraine has been campaigning to use ATACMS. The problem here is, firstly, the number of ATACMS Ukraine has at its disposal. The second is, if we look at the history of deep strikes, whether they have been able to significantly change the battlefield by themselves isn't very promising if we look at, for instance, the Second World War and the Allied bombing of Germany. That being said, Ukraine doesn't have enough deep strike capabilities in order to make it count. So striking within the range of 295 kilometers, we were talking about those 200 plus targets. Is it going to make Putin withdraw his troops from Ukraine? Probably not. Is it going to create some military problems in terms of logistics and so on? Yes, but the problem is that the window of opportunity for Ukraine would be very short, because we have to remember that Russia still has electronic warfare capabilities and air defenses, and we have seen the adaptation going on in this war. So there is a short window of opportunity with limited means, and of course also the lack of a Ukrainian ability to conduct multi-domain operations, because let's say an air campaign, if Ukraine was using Scalp, Storm Shadow missiles, would require the use of ground forces and specifically maneuvering.
Now, if it happens, what kind of strategic response can we expect from the Kremlin?
Well, that's a good question because obviously Western countries are very concerned that the Kremlin might use at least tactical nuclear weapons. Is it going to happen? I don't know. What Kremlin could, of course, do militarily is open another front, say on the Belarus strike from the Belarus direction to further overstretch the Ukrainian forces. That's the military component of that. And most likely, we would see non-military means used against Western countries, specifically economic means, sharing military technologies with the likes of North Korea, maybe Iran, also creating diplomatic pressure. So the variety of tools that the Kremlin will have at its disposal go well beyond the military means. And of course, in the information spectrum, most notably cyber, that will be used heavily.
Marina Miron there, military analyst from King's College London as ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.